Hello paper crafters, this is Jane Fires, Coach 151 with Fun Stamper's Journey. And today we're going to do a luminary. These make nice gifts. This happens to be one of them. I'm going to show you 3 different ones that I've done, and you're going to notice that in all 3 I've either used a different color cardstock or a flower, ribbon, sometimes all 3 things. So on this one, this is the one that we did here. This one we used the new rose gold cardstock and flowers and things with the gold mirrored paper. And here's another one. So the one we're going to do today is going to be a little different than the 3 I've just shown you, but let's begin by showing you some of the things that we're going to be using. In all of the ones I showed you, and in the one we're doing today, we're going to use the summer branch die. And this particular die, I have already cut it out in our Kiwi green so that I'm all ready to go. When I use my summer branch, because I use it so often, I usually cut several of them out and then I stick them in my folder, and that's what I did with this one. The other die that we're using, which is going to be our main part for the luminary, is the Artful burst die. Now, we have several dies that are decorative, and you can use any of them doing the same thing I'm going to show you today. But this is the one that we're going to be using. And then the other thing that we need is a circle. And we need the circle for the bottom and for the inside. So I used the largest cut circle here in the Journey Circles die. So these are the 3 die sets that we're going to be using today. And then we'll be using the Journey Vellum. And that's, of course, you can see on the inside. And today, the color that I'm using is the Candy Apple. And no matter which one you do with this particular size die, you need a 12 by 12. And you can get 2 of them out of one 12 by 12 because you need the full 12-inch length, and then you need 6 inches wide. And then here are some of the flowers. Now this particular flower here I did not use. This is called the media flower. And as you can see, they come in different sizes. So easily you could use one of these. These are a fabric, a cloth type. So what you could do with these also is you could spray them and color them any color that you wanted to. So that's just another flower idea. And then this one is the one that I used on the first luminary that I showed you, and it's called Vintage Burst, and there are several flowers, and I took one of them out of here and used it on the very first luminary. Today, however, we're going to use a different flower, and we're going to do this one in what's called the Golden Poinsettia. And so I'll use this with our Candy Sparkle Red Ribbon. So these will be the 2 that we're going to use today. And then besides other tools, and I'll show you that as I go, we will of course be using our scoreboard. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take one of your 12 by 12s, and I did it already with our paper trimmer, and I cut it in half. So I have it 6 inches wide, 12 inches long. And I put the 6-inch side at the top, and I took my score tool and I went up 4 5/8 and I scored down. So I have a score line here, but I don't want to fold it yet, but I wanted it there so that you could see it and as I go to die cut. So I'm going to set these things aside. And then I've already cut the circles that we're going to need. We're going to need 2 of them. We'll need them, one for inside and one for outside. So here are the 2 circles already die cut. And I've also already cut the vellum. All right, so here's the vellum. The vellum is 4.5 inches by 6. So you can get 1 luminary out of 1 piece of vellum because you're going to need both pieces. The other thing that you're going to need to do before you die cut, and I used our Journey ruler, our new metal ruler. And what you're going to do is you're going to put your ruler on your left-hand side of your cardstock. The top here is right where I've got my right hand right now. This is going to be the top of my luminary. So from the left side, I am measuring in 1/2 inch, and I'm putting a mark. And I did that all the way down. Now, I don't know if you can see my mark here or not, but I've measured it down all the way at 1/2 inch from my left, and then at the top I've measured down 1/4 of an inch. And this 1/4 and this 1/2 are going to be very important when I place my die on here, because this is going to be the top, and where my fold line is, that's my bottom. So now what I can do is take my die. Now this particular die, with just like a lot of our decorative dies, comes in 2 pieces. I don't want its frame. I don't need this piece, so I'm going to stick it back in my container. All I need is this one here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it down, and I'm going to line it up with my marks, my 1/2 inch in and my 1/4 inch down. Now, because of the type of person I am, I want to make sure it does not move on me, because for sure I need it right here. So very carefully I am going to put a piece of our electric tape, which is a washi tape. It will hold my die in place, and obviously this is what I want. And I'm going to do it on all 4 sides. And I'm simply doing it so that I know I'm going to stay right where I want it. And then I'm going to be using our Platinum 6 machine. Now the Platinum 6, remember, when you get it, it comes with your cutting plate, 2 of them, your base plate. It also comes with your rubber plate that you need, and your embossing plate. But also remember that your base plate here is not magnetized, okay? And that's one of the reasons why I like to put it my washi tape on. So now I'm going to lay my tape and my cardstock and my die in, and I'm going to run it through my machine. And I like to run it both ways, because then I know that I have it cut well. Okay, move my machine out of the way. Okay, now you can see that I've got a lot of these little pieces to brush out. All right, and of course how I get them out is using our bloom tool, and they'll just come right out. You can see they're flying out. But I already have one piece that's already cut, so I'm not going to worry about my pieces right now. But I want to show you what you need to do next. Okay, so now I have my first one cut out. Now I need to do my second one. So now what I do is where my edge is here, that you can see where my edge is right there, okay? I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to lay it down, and I'm marking over 1/2 inch. And the reason for doing that now is that when I go to make my second cut on this other side, I can lay my die up at the top, because I've got my 1/4 inch from the top, and I have my 1/2 inch now from where my last die cut was at. When I lay it down, just to check it, over on this side, I need 1/4 of an inch, and yes, I'm good there. So I can put down my tape, and I can run this back through my machine again and make my second cut. And when I do that, this is what I'm going to have. So now I have 2 sides that are totally cut out. Then what I do is I lay this up on my die cut machine. And this time I lay it with the 12 inches at the top. And then I go at every inch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And I score down to where my other score line that I had made to begin with is. So let me do just part of it because I haven't die cut the second part of my luminary. So I'm going to lay this on, but what I would do is I would start, for example, we're going to pretend I've done the first part. I'm at 7. I'm going to score it down to where my score line is at 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Now, the reason for doing that is simply that that gives me a guideline of where I'm going to snip in. Because remember, I need this to be rounded. And in order to do that, I need to give me some cuts. So what I did was I took my Grand Pro shears and I cut up every one of my score lines. And then I went back and I cut them at an angle. And I do that because it's much easier to put this together and to have a nice looking bottom part. So I have done that all the way across. Now the next thing that I need to do is attach my vellum. So what I have done is I have put tape here and here, just like you see it here. So now I can peel these two off. And now I can take a piece of vellum and I'm going to lay it right at the top edge. And I'm going to, on the left side, I'm going to rub it down. Now, I have my tape all the way around, and just to make sure, in a few spots you can see what I'm doing. I'm just putting a little bit of craft glue on top of the tape because that will help this to make sure that I have a good seal, and that's what I want to make sure of, that I have a very good seal as I go around. So now I have that side completed. So now I will take some more of my tape and put it on this other side. And again, I'm using the our white liner tape. Put it close to the top. And again, one of the reasons I like our tape is because you can tear it. Take my bloom tool and take off my tape, the backing I mean of my tape. And again, I'm just going to put down a little bit of blotches of glue. I don't need to do it all over, but it will help to hold this down. And I need to make sure that this stays well, because of course this is going to be where my lights are going to shine through from. So take my other piece of vellum and line it up. This time when I line my vellum up, I'm lining it up on the right hand side here, close to the top and towards the edge, and running it down and then running it across with my finger and onto my other piece. Now, one of the things that you really want to make sure of is that your vellum is on secure. I mean, you want this down really, really well. In a couple of them, mine bubbled a little bit when I first did them. And so that's why, because on the first ones I did, the first two that I did not use glue. I simply used the tape. And then I realized, oh no, in one little place or two it was bubbling. So then on the rest of them now I've gone back and used both the tape and our glue. Now once I have that down well, then I'm ready to put it together. Now, as you turn it to the front side, you're going to notice that one side, and in this case it's the side here on my left, is my 1/2 inch. Just like I have in the middle. So I want to make sure that I put my tape here so that I'm putting this together this way. Now, I do like to soften this, and I know this sounds crazy, okay, but I like to use my Pro scissors because they will not give at all. And simply then what I do is I go to the back where my vellum is, and I just sort of give it a few little pulls. Then I turn it around and I do the bottom. And again, the only reason for doing this is it just seems to soften your fibers in your cardstock. Because remember, you want this to curl a little bit. So it's almost like, you know, you have that ribbon at Christmas time and stuff that you curl with your scissors. Well, it's almost the same thing, except I'm not using the sharp blade side. So now I can turn it, and I know that I want it to go together this way here. So what I'm going to do now is on this side, my short little width side, I'm going to put a piece of white liner tape, and I'm putting my tape close to where my die cut is at, and going down. Take my backing off, and again, close to the edge now, my cut edge, I'm going to run some glue, and then just dot a little bit on my tape. Then I'm going to take it, and beginning at the top, I'm going to line it up. And making sure it's lined up. Now because I've got my tape on, it's a little harder to move, but I can move it a little bit and walk it down. Then I lay it down and I put my hand inside and I press and I hold it for just a minute, because then I know it's going to stay together. Okay, so there it is. Now here's my bottom. Okay, so now I'm going to take all of my little corners here and make sure it's going to go in. Now I've already cut my 2 circles, so I know that I want this to fit in my 2 circles. Okay, so I just have to kind of work it with my hand. So once I've got it fairly well done, I'm going to go back and I'm going to add a little bit of glue on all of my tips. And then I'm going to begin putting them in. Now remember, by using the glue, you have a few seconds for it before it's going to hold for sure. Okay, so I've got time. And you could do this, of course, ahead of time. Put your glue on the bottom, put it on, and hold it for a minute. And once I know it's going to hold, I tip it over. And because I'm going to put another piece on the inside, I know that I'm going to be okay there. So I simply put my glue on my circle. Stick my bottom in and press it down. I'm going around, of course, with my finger on my edges, and I'm checking it so that I know it's in there and it's flat. Now, you could leave it like that if you wanted to, but I wanted mine to stand up. So what I'm going to do is something that and I'll be honest with you, we don't sell these at Fun Stampers, but I found them at Hobby Lobby, okay? And they're little wooden balls, really, they're beads. And what I will do is I will glue 4 of these on the bottom when I'm all finished with doing my other decorations, and you'll see that in a minute, but I wanted to let you know this is what I use to do those with. So now what I need to do is to get my decorations out, which will be my leaves. I will need a light. Okay, now I have my poinsettias somewhere. Here they are. I'll need a poinsettia. And these are golden poinsettias, but we also have the red ones. And then I need some ribbon. One of the things that I like to do, because I don't like to see my raw edge down here, is I glue on a piece of ribbon. And so what I do is I simply take my ribbon and figure out, oops, how much I'm going to need. That right there should do. Cut it with my Grand Pro. Then I start where my vellum, or where my back has come together, because this is going to be the back. And what I simply do is all the way around, I run glue. And yes, I run quite a bit of glue. Okay, so I have my glue on that. I'm going to lay my ribbon down, and yes, you guessed it, as close to the middle as I can, I'm running another line of glue. And now I'm ready to glue on my ribbon. So I'm putting my ribbon so it goes just a little bit below where my bottom is, because my feet are going to hold it up. And then I make sure that I have my ribbon overlapping where it needs to be. So now I have my ribbon on. You'll get some glue on your hands, I know, I do. Okay, so my ribbon is glued on. So now I've got to decide, where do I want my leaves on the front? Well, here's my front piece, and I kind of like it be covered up. So I think I'm going to glue one of my leaves here, and then I'll take one of my other leaves that are green, and I will put it on overlapping a little bit. Let's move this one over a little. So I have that one there, and I'm going to have this one here. So let's glue this one on, and what I do is when I have it where I want it, I hold it, and then I just put my glue, and again I do use my craft glue, because once this dries, it doesn't matter what I've put it on, it's going to hold. So then I make sure I get it in. And because it hasn't been that long, I still have time and I can just slide this under my ribbon. And I just play with my leaves a little bit where I want them. Then I need a little more glue on this one that I did not glue before, and on this one here, and glue those down. Take my other set of leaves, put some glue on the back of them. And hold it. Then go back here where I did not put glue and put some glue and hold those down for a minute so they'll stay right there. Okay, so there are my leaves on. Guess I better hold them for just another minute. Now on the other ones that I showed you earlier, I did more than just, I did one bow, but I did like 3 different bows on each side or 2. On this one I'm going to simply make, I think, a single one. And so how I do it is I decide how far apart I want my, my ribbon to be, and I can simply do it this way. Let's do 2 on this one. And so I go back up. I'm doing figure 8s, of course. And then again, I'm going to cut my tail. I bring it around, go through the V of my 2 fingers, bring it to the front now. I should have made it a little bigger. Go through right here. And up, and then pull it. Now because this is satin and it's sparkly, it's a little stiffer ribbon than some of our other ribbon, but you can get it to work very nicely. And then pull it off your fingers, pull your little bows apart, and I just play with mine a little bit to get it to go the way I want it. And there's my bow. Now I'm turning my bow to the back side because I know how I want it to lay when I put it on. And so what I'm going to do is not only put glue dot in the middle where the knot is, but because I know how I want it to lay, I'm also going to put a glue dot on each of my little bow parts. Because then I know that when I lay this on and hold it, it's going to stay right where I want it. So now I can turn it over, and I'm going to put it right here and glue down each of my little bow parts. Do the same on the other side. You may have to hold them for a minute, but then you can always fluff them up when you've got them to stick where you want. Okay, and then I want my 2 little ties, little tails. I want those to go somewhere in a certain place, so I'm going to do the same thing with those. Put a glue dot on, bring my little tail down to where I want it. Do the same on the other side. Oops, that one doesn't want to stick. It's sticking to my finger, so I'm going to use another one. So I have it where I want. Now I can cut my tails how I want them. Okay, and now I'm ready for my golden poinsettia. On my flowers, and again, it doesn't matter which flower I used a lot of glue because I want to make sure this is going to hold. And where I'm going to put my little poinsettia is right there. So it's between my two little tails, and it's right at the base of where my knot is on my bow. I'm going to let go of it so that you can see it, but then I'm going to re-hold it for a minute because this is how it's going to look now. Okay, so make sure that's going to hold. Then I turn it over, upside down. Okay, I have 4 little balls. I've got 3 of them. The 4th one must have rolled away from me. Well, let's start with 3. Okay, so I know that this is the back and I know where my front is. So I know that I want 1 here. I'm going to want 1 here. I'm going to want 1 here. And 1 on the other side, which I'll put on as soon as I find my ball. So now I can put my little balls on, the little beads. Okay, and bead number 4 is going to go right here. Then I just sort of turn and look at them because I want to make sure I've got them lined up well. Turn it over and there it is. It will now stand up. So the last thing that I need is my little tea light. Put it on, put it in. In these bigger ones, I usually put in 2 of the little tea lights. But there it is. You can see them flickering right there. And there is a luminary. So if you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me. You can email me at Serif, S like in Sam, E-R-I-F 1 at AOL.com. It is my last name backwards. If you have any questions, let me know and I will get back with you. In November, I will also do a luminary that will be a little smaller, a little shorter, and it will be a square one to show you a little different way to do these. But these are fun to make. They do take a little bit of time, but once you've done 1 or 2 of them, you'll know exactly what you need and how to do it. So if you have any questions, let me know. Remember, all of the products I used today, except for the light and the beads, can be found at funstampersjourney.com/angelhugs. Have a great and blessed day.